For years, the world has heard the same prediction. China will overtake the United States. It's repeated in headlines, economic forums, military briefings, and viral YouTube videos. But what if that prediction is wrong? What if the 21st century does not belong to China? What if the structural, demographic, financial, and geopolitical realities make it nearly impossible for China to fully surpass the United States? This isn't about nationalism. This isn't about propaganda. This is about hard realities: economics, demographics, innovation, military power, global alliances, and political systems. And once you see the full picture, the story becomes much more complicated: the economic illusion. Let's begin with the biggest argument. China's economy is catching up fast. Yes, China grew rapidly after joining the World Trade Organization in 2001. Factories expanded, exports exploded, infrastructure projects covered the country. Hundreds of millions were lifted out of poverty. China's GDP surged. But here's the key question: growth from what starting point? When a country is poor, rapid growth is easier. Going from low income to middle income is much faster than going from rich to superpower. The United States already operates at the top tier of wealth and productivity. And here's where the numbers matter. Even today, the GDP per capita of the United States is dramatically higher than that of China. That means the average American produces far more economic value than the average Chinese citizen. Why does that matter? Because global dominance isn't just about total GDP. It's about productivity, innovation, technological leadership, financial influence, and in those areas the U.S. still holds powerful advantages. The demographic time bomb. Now here's something many people ignore. China is aging fast. For decades, China enforced the one-child policy. It successfully reduced population growth, but now the consequences are arriving. China's working-age population is shrinking. Birth rates have collapsed. Young people are declining in number every year. Meanwhile, the United States continues to grow, not just through births, but through immigration. And immigration matters. The U.S. attracts global talent: engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, investors. Silicon Valley was built by immigrants and their children. When population shrinks, labor supply falls, consumer demand weakens, social security burdens increase, economic growth slows. China is approaching a future where fewer young workers must support a massive elderly population. This demographic drag could last decades, and economic superpowers do not rise when their workforce shrinks. Innovation versus imitation. China is extremely good at scaling, at manufacturing, at infrastructure building. But true global dominance requires more than production. It requires breakthrough innovation. Let's compare. The world's leading tech giants: Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, NVIDIA, all American. They dominate operating systems, cloud computing, AI infrastructure, advanced chips. China has tech champions too, companies like Huawei and Alibaba. But the difference: many of China's most advanced technologies still rely on Western components, especially high-end semiconductor equipment. The U.S., along with allies, controls critical chip-making technology. When the U.S. imposed export restrictions on advanced semiconductor tools, China's AI chip progress slowed dramatically. That reveals a vulnerability. True dominance requires technological independence at every layer, from design to manufacturing equipment. And right now that ecosystem still leans heavily Western. The dollar weapon. Here's something that rarely gets enough attention: the global financial system. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency. Oil is priced in dollars. International trade is settled in dollars. Central banks hold dollars. This gives the United States extraordinary financial power. When the U.S. imposes sanctions, it can isolate countries from the global financial system. China wants to internationalize the yuan, but global trust takes decades to build, and trust requires transparent financial systems, rule of law, independent courts, predictable policy. Investors trust U.S. markets because contracts are enforceable, property rights protected, political transitions are predictable. China's financial system is still tightly controlled by the state. That limits global confidence, and without a dominant currency, global economic leadership is difficult. military reach and global alliances. Military power isn't just about numbers, it's about reach. The United States maintains military alliances across Europe and Asia. Through NATO, it has deep security ties across Europe. In Asia, it partners with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and others. China's alliances, far more limited. China has powerful regional influence, especially in the South China Sea, but it lacks the global alliance network the U.S. built after World War II. Global power requires not just strength, but coalitions, and coalition building depends on trust, political systems, and risk. China's centralized political system allows rapid decision-making. Infrastructure gets built quickly. Projects move fast, but centralized systems also carry risks. When mistakes happen, they scale quickly. When property markets overheated, entire cities faced crisis. When strict lockdown policies were enforced, economic activity slowed sharply. The United States moves slower politically, but its system distributes risk. Independent states, independent courts, independent media. That decentralization can look messy, but it provides long-term stability. The middle income trap. Many countries rise quickly, then stall. It's called the middle income trap. Cheap labor being enough, innovation becomes essential. Wages rise, competitiveness falls. China is now navigating that transition. Manufacturing is moving to Vietnam, India, Mexico. If China cannot shift successfully to high-end innovation leadership, growth slows, and without sustained high growth, overtaking the U.S. becomes unlikely. Geography and energy security. The United States enjoys extraordinary geographic advantages. 2 oceans, friendly neighbors, massive agricultural land, energy independence growth. China, by contrast, imports most of its oil, relies on sea lanes that can be disrupted, faces regional territorial tensions. Energy and geography matter more than most people realize. Soft power. Hollywood, music, universities, English language dominance. American cultural influence spreads globally. Students from around the world dream of studying in the U.S. Global talent flows toward opportunity. Soft power creates long-term influence beyond economics. China is powerful, rising, strategically ambitious, but overtaking the United States is not just about size. It's about demographics, innovation ecosystems, financial trust, military alliances, geography, political stability, currency dominance, and in each of these areas, the United States retains structural advantages. The future may not be unipolar, it may be multipolar, but complete replacement? That is far harder than headlines suggest.